I mean, it was such an honor, that moment. And I actually remember, I mean, how could I forget? We were backstage. I think we were on our bus, and you walking towards us from the stage with your dobro hanging around your neck, and just a massive greeting. And we were, you know, we were young lads. We were so intimidated. Not everyone that, you know, the musicianship, the level of musicianship there was, for us, we were intimidated, but not just you, Jerry, like everyone there is so quick and warm to invite us in. And I think that spirit, it's quite alien from like the world of music I came from a little bit, because in London, or certainly being sort of raised in the 90s in London, where it's bands who are sort of pitted against each other like gangs, or certainly that's how the press would always put it. Then to come into a world where it's everyone play together. I think everyone played with everyone. Like it's absolutely wonderful.
I remember by the end of your set, practically everyone who was playing Telluride Festival was on stage playing with you guys, and you hadn't even asked them to. They just were all caught up in the moment, and they heard the sound that the world was going to hear after that, you know, and they all knew that you guys belonged with us and to the world, you know, and to the greater public as well. And you guys went on to just, you know, blow all of that completely away, and even further than anybody thought you might go. But I remember I had Omar Hakim playing with me at that festival,
Yeah.
the famous jazz drummer, and somebody misspelled his name backstage on the poster. It said Jerry Douglas with Omar Hakim, and somebody had just scratched out Omar Hakim and put Hamilton Jones. But you know, for me,
that's quite a misspelling.
Yeah, they didn't know how to they didn't know how to pronounce it, so they just fixed it. Yeah. And then the first time I grew up listening to J.D. Crowe, so, and just thinking, you know, even thinking that I would ever share a stage with him was the farthest thing from my mind. But then I saw them play. I saw J.D. and Doyle and Bobby Sloan and Larry Rice,
early
Doyle Lawson, play at Berryville, and it was like the Beatles are coming. The Beatles are coming, and you need to hear this. And everybody at that festival was there to watch you guys play, and you guys just annihilated the place. You guys blew everyone away. It was, no, JD, it was really a monumental day for me to hear that, and to think that I would be playing with you there, you know, like 4 years later. I can't fathom, but we did, and we were the Beatles that day. You know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah. So to have you and Winston both in the same room here with me is just about as happy as I ever get. Okay, and just two really good friends, and both of you coming from different directions, because J.D. Crowe has always, and we've talked about this, J.D. and I have. J.D. is a banjo player first, but J.D. really, really wanted to be a rockabilly guitar player.
Right, that's right.
And he brought that into his banjo playing and into the bluegrass mainstream, where you brought like bluegrass sensibilities into a rock and roll world.
Right.
And so you guys are like meeting. This is the pinnacle. We're at the pinnacle. We're sitting on the mountain here now, talking to two guys who play the banjo, who have sort of revolutionized the instrument in two completely different, opposite directions, but both so celebrated and play different styles. But it's a banjo,
right,
and you make great sounds with it.
Well, you know, Jerry, speaking of that situation, I can certainly say in the dobro category, you have taken what Josh Graves started and revolutionized the dobro the same way. And you've made a heck of a career out of that. I mean, you have done more with the dobro, I mean, the ultimate. And I never thought when we first met and you was working with the New South, you know, and I knew you were good, but I mean, you've gone way beyond what we did and for your own thing with the dobro. And now, I mean, what can you say about Jerry Douglas? He's the best. The
Nothing.
And I am, yeah, and I am proud to have had you in the group.
Thank you, JD.
That was great, and that was just an experience that I'll never forget.
Okay, enough about me. What do you think about me, Win?
Well,
This is about you guys.
No.
I'd like to continue the flattery because I remember first hearing your playing on the Alison Krauss record, New Favorite, I think, and that's the record with Choctaw Hayride. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that song, and I don't think I had a real concept for the dobro at that time, and so I was hearing it as a guitar, and so it's one thing to say, of course, and I agree with JD about you revolutionizing the dobro and taking it to levels, but as a guitarist, you're up there with Hendrix, and you're up there with the greatest. It's not just a question of dobro. It's it's for me, it's a guitar, and you are absolutely the very, very top. I mean, of all time. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's thank you. That's humbling. I really want to point the conversation back to you guys and just you know, what made each of you want to play the banjo in the first place? What was it that got you about the banjo that really, JD, what was it about banjo that made you want to play that particular instrument?
That particular instrument, when I first, and this goes back to like 1950, when I first saw Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and the Foggy Mountain Boys in that concept. There was 5 guys at that time. And I loved the whole deal. But what stood out was the banjo, because I remember I was pretty young, and the only banjo that I had heard or was familiar with was, and I called them a comedic prop, because all of them was, you know, you had Oswald, who was with Roy Acuff, you had String Bean, Grandpa Jones, Uncle Dave Macon. That was the banjo in the concept of comedy. And it was great for listening, I mean, for watching, but to listen at it, I never was impressed with it. I've learned to respect it now a lot more, because it is a hard thing to do. I've tried, I can't do it, you know, but I first, when I saw Earl, that did it. I mean, something clicked. I said, I have got to try to do that. And that did it. And I never left it. I stayed with it. I dropped the guitar, which I wish I should have done that, but you know, it's neither here nor there. But I stuck with the banjo, and I, you know, back then I had no intention of making a living playing a musical instrument. Actually, I just wanted to learn it because I wanted to myself. For self-satisfaction, I guess, type of thing. But that's my exposure to the banjo was Earl. Of course, I'd heard Don Reno later, which I liked, and some of the other guys. But back when I was learning, there was probably myself, Sonny Osborne, Alan Shelton, I'm sure Reno, Ralph Stanley. But I never was exposed to them like Flatt and Scruggs, because they were living here in Lexington, Kentucky, my hometown. And every Saturday night, I got to go see them. And I got to go to the radio station where they had their 15-minute program every Saturday morning. And I would go to this radio station and watch them. And that's why that I stuck with the banjo. Had not been for that, I'd probably been another struggling guitar player, you know.
You would have been a good one.
Well,
whatever you were going to play, you were going to be the best you could.
Well, I was listening, like I do banjo stuff, I was listening to a lot of people, country, especially blues. I love the blues, played on guitar, you know, and but that's kind of how I came to play the banjo. Had it not been for Earl, I would not be playing the banjo.
You and about 1 million,
That's
10
right.
million other people. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
What about you, Win? What was it that drew you to the banjo, being in London, being a London kid?
Well, funnily enough, I was a mediocre at best guitar player, and the banjo, no one else played, so there was no job competition. Absolutely fantastic, and very easy to get gigs with any band that wanted a banjo player. But you know, you're saying earlier about it being a funny instrument, or I can't remember how to quite say it. And I think Steve Marston said something about it being a comedy instrument, and naturally he would, although he does play unbelievably soulful music on it. But it wasn't a comedy instrument for me at the start. There's something when I first hit, and again, I wasn't raised on it. I probably first heard the banjo when I was sort of 15, and identified it as a banjo. It's not just something that was just in the background. And it makes you pop, you know, the arpeggio or something, it pops, it makes you hop, it makes you jump up and down. It kind of, it's very, it gets you in the gut. It makes you move. It makes you dance as well as move you emotionally. And I was really listening to, because the New South record that was important for me was the I guess it was the first one, the brown cover one, the 1975 record.
44 was the number. Yeah.
40, yeah, they call a lot of people don't even know the name of that band.
No,
but they
it's just
44.
Yeah. I remember finding that record. It was on our first US tour in 2008, and we were supporting Laura Marling and Johnny Flynn, who graciously and incredibly generously allowed us not only to support them, but to sleep on the back of their bus in the lounge, and which was quite a squeeze, I tell you. And I remember our first show in New York, we were playing Bowery Ballroom, I think, and staying in Lower East Side around there. Actually, we were staying at Soho Suites on Rivington Street, I think. And I remember I found a record shop and downtown. Again, annoyingly, I can't remember what it was called. And I remember it being a beautiful autumn day, not a cloud in the sky, and walking to this record shop because I knew they had bluegrass CDs, and you know, again, that stuff wasn't easily accessible for me back home. So I just went and I found the record. I remember finding this record with the brown cover and not knowing what was going to be on it, but I could see from the record that I needed to listen to it. And that record was the soundtrack for me of that tour, that sort of month-long tour, which was, you know, a real baptism of fire for touring the US. And I loved it, and just to tie into the comedy side, because there's funny songs on that record, like Summer Wages. It's funny, but it's so soulful simultaneously. It's fun, silly, but also very moving. All of those things at once. It's just an unbelievable record.
We did that record in Silver Springs, Maryland, and I remember I was only going to be on maybe one, maybe two songs on the record. And of course, Ricky Skaggs, my old pal, was in the band, and Tony Rice and JD, you know, who I just thought, you know, hung the moon. So I was playing with a band called the Country Gentlemen at the time and living there in DC. So they came to my town to record pretty much. And I went to the studio and I ended up playing on 8 songs, I think, something like that. But and Summer Wages was one of them. But they were, this record that they were about to make was highly anticipated. I mean, everyone wanted to know what this band, because they played like 6 nights a week in a Holiday Inn bar in Lexington, Kentucky, and they were tight. They were so tight. They they knew what each other were going to do before it ever happened, and to get in the studio with them, they'd been rehearsing this stuff, but they hadn't rehearsed it with me. So I was sort of the fifth wheel, but I was just trying to make JD happy. I knew I stay out of JD's way, I'll be okay. But, and JD played guitar on some of the record too. But it was a thrill for me to do that. And for you and to just walk into a record store and find that record, record. That record had 2 covers, by the way. I wonder which one you got. But if you got the original cover, you're in a minority. But
all right.
But they, I think they've since replaced the cover with the original cover, haven't they?
Yeah. They have.
There's some bluegrass history, but there's a lot of bluegrass history there. But to be in London, it seems to me that would be odd. And you're right, you would have no competition in London.
Right.
Well, that's why I was so nervous coming to Telluride that someone was going to nick my bloody job. Yeah.
No, too many banjo players in Telluride. Yeah, but you were there and you played different. But I when I heard the Mumford Sons on the radio the first time, there was a banjo, very high profile in this hit song, and what was it? "Awake My Soul." It was one of the first things that was out there for everybody to hear. So you played dobro on that, but you also played banjo on that as well, I think, right?
Yeah, and that's something you were saying earlier. And in our heads, we're a rock band, and although we love the sort of those acoustic instruments, we always wanted to be the rock band on bills like the Telluride bill, but I say that we also wanted to be the rootsy band on the rock bill. So we wanted to be the band that wasn't what everyone else was, wherever we went a little bit.
You were able to do that. You were able to do that. I mean, at Telluride, you were the rock band, but there was also something so soulful about the way you guys came about it. With Marcus up there with that kick drum up in the front. It was before you had like a full drum kit behind you too for a couple of songs, I think. Yeah. But it was mostly you guys invented a new genre almost. I mean,
we repackaged something old, but I don't think we invented anything.
It was like, music is cyclical, especially anything country music. I mean, and rock and roll too. I mean, it's sort of like everything goes around the dial. It starts out as sort of rootsy, and then it gets so polished no one can stand it anymore, and then becomes rootsy again. You guys happened at a time when we all needed a new sound, and you guys were there and just very innocently just took the crown. The same as "Oh Brother" came around at a good time. "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" The movie, we had a movie as a vehicle, but it ushered in a new era of country music. The music that everybody told us that we couldn't make any money playing. Suddenly, everybody got a boost that made that kind of music, and it did a lot for bluegrass music. People were playing bands were playing parties that they were never asked to before. And I think that you guys, I think Mumford & Sons did the same kind of thing. It was the same kind of thing to me. It was a new sound, and then everybody started sort of mimicking you. And I remember there was a commercial on TV, and one of you guys said, when did we write that? I don't remember writing that, but it wasn't you. But it was something it was a complete ripoff of you. But you know, and that is right. You know, it was flattery.
That Oh Brother, I mean, I've said this before, but that Oh Brother record was where I first heard this kind of music. And just to say again what I've said before, like in London, that's not the world I came from. I mean, that music, of course, is there, and the banjo exists as part of traditional Irish music, and even old pub sing song. You know, British people, we love a sing song, and the banjo was there in pubs for the sing-song stuff, and you go back to George Formby and kind of the music hall stuff all through the 20th century. Banjo's sort of been there, but not ever something that I ever thought about until that film and that record that came with it, that which gave it to everyone, and that's not just me, that's the rest of the band as well. It was hugely influential, that film and record.
Well, I think that we all have Earl Scruggs to thank for what the banjo is now. And you were hearing, when you were hearing sort of the trickle down of the power of Earl Scruggs coming through there, and the people that were playing banjos on that record, you know, and JD was certainly influenced by him, but became one of Earl's, you know, there were as many people that went, oh, Earl Scruggs or J.D. Crowe, and they would go J.D. Crowe. So it's just an advancement of an instrument. And we're all in this, you know, everybody leads to another person. We can all play the same style. That would be pretty boring. So everybody's trying to improve on the instrument. And I think the two of you have done more for that than anybody else I can think of. And coming from completely different directions, you know. So I think that I think it would be, you know, bringing outside influences in, like JD. Every once in a while, JD would play some James Burton lick on the banjo. You know, he just couldn't help himself. And it became a style. And it became part of his style. Then it became part of the next person's style. You know, it just building the encyclopedia.
Trickles down, I guess, too,
Yeah. I mean, JD, did you ever really own an electric guitar?
Oh, yeah. I still got one.
Yeah?
Got a Stratocaster.
Bring it on out.
No, I'm not. Hey, as many good guitar players are out there now, I will not touch one.
Yeah.
Because, you know, to play and play right, play it like you want to play it, or like I want to play it and I want to hear it. You know, there's no way there now that I could do that. You know, I dropped.
Oh, come on, JD, it's your next step.
But I tell you what, I still love it.
It's only natural.
I still love it, and I still listen at it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you're talking about the music, fusing different genres of music together is kind of, I guess, what I tried to do, because I love good country music, I may add. I love good rock and roll. I love good rhythm and blues. And I tried to, and a lot of the old gospel. I tried to fuse a lot of that together and make it work. But you can't make everything work. There's certain things that you can tie together and make it work. And there's some things you should leave alone, because I myself don't feel like I could do the song justice if I don't hear it. I have to hear that, you know, and think maybe it will work.
So there's a litmus test for you that the song has to pass before you'll commit to it.
Right. Yes.
Well, I imagine it's the same for Winston to
sure. Yeah.
and it's
the same for
band.
you. I mean, you
Well,
could
they
do
write all their material, so they have
just a
it's a
blessing there. Yeah.
yeah, it's they. I know these guys they all hole up somewhere in a farmhouse
And that's what you have to
and
do.
fight
Yeah.
over over the lyrics and chords. I
But
would
even
like to
if
be a
you write,
fly on the wall for that.
Yeah.
no, it's not a pretty experience.
But it has to be done.
Yeah, it has to be done.
Yes.
And it's painful precisely because it's meaningful, or even if you writing your own songs, you have to believe. It's very you can get when you're writing a lot, you can fall into traps and then just bosh out songs without necessarily meaning them that much. And sometimes some of the songs like that are great and fun for the moment, but as JD described me, you got to feel these songs, you got to really believe them, and even if you're writing them yourself, you've got to believe those songs. They've got to click emotionally, and actually once they do, everything comes very naturally. But getting to that point is quite a painful process, I found.
True. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
JD's been through it as well by leading his own bands all these years. After being in Jimmy Martin's band, and
Yep.
JD was down at the Louisiana Hayride.
Yes.
When Elvis was there, all of these people.
Yeah, but now wait just a minute, Jerry. Elvis was there before we got there.
Was he?
So
Okay.
He was there
Straighten me out on this.
In 54, and maybe some guest shots in 55.
Mm-hmm.
But he had just left before we got there. We didn't get there until 1958.
Was he too popular on his own at that point?
He had had probably 7 or 8 number ones by then, by 56.
But who were some of the other people that were down there?
Okay, there was Johnny Horton.
Yeah.
He was a big artist. And while we were there, the fellow that wrote Battle in New Orleans was Jimmy Driftwood. He made a guest shot on the Hayride.
He was quite a character, wasn't
he? Yes, he was. Nice little fellow. I really liked him. And he wrote that. And when Johnny Horton, I know Johnny's manager, we all loved at the time. He was a great guy. And he was Horton's manager and his bass player, Gilman Franks. And I remember him telling Johnny and telling us, he says, Johnny's going to do that song. And we couldn't believe it because it's so far-fetched from the way Jimmy Driftwood did it. And then, of course, when Johnny came out with it, the production on that record, you can see and hear everything going on in that record. It's so real sounding.
He turned it into a completely different
totally different. And he did that while we were there.
Well, the Jimmy Driftwood version was a very bare and very, very folky version.
Right. It was. What it was folk back then. And
but when Johnny Horton put the big Cobra engine on it.
Yes, he did.
He was a huge star.
It is. And then he would, of course, proceeded to do quite a few more in that manner. Same kind of production.
Well, did you tell me that James Elvis's guitar player, was he there on the Hayride?
I first met him. No, he came from California while Jim and I were there. I remember he came in with Bob Luman. That's when I first met Bob Luman, who I thought the world of. Great singer, great talent, man, And I got to meet him. We had quite a few cups of coffee together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I met James there. I wasn't around him a lot, but he had came with. I guess he was working with Bob Luman at the time. And then you asked me who all was there. It was Carl Ballou, who wrote "Stop the World, Let Me Off." Mm-hmm. Am I that easy to forget? He wrote all that stuff there. And James O'Gwen, who was a good singer, kind of a George Jones type clone, but he was a good singer and really liked him. He's a good person. And
Was George around?
What was that?
Was George Jones down there at any point?
He came in as a guest. See, once a month, the Hayride, the booking agency there, would bring in special guests. And I met a lot of those artists then. George, Johnny Cash, the Browns, the Louvin brothers. They all came in as guests at one time. And that's how I met a lot of those people.
Wow.
It was just
what a life you've led. What a life.
Yeah.
And
great experience.
Winston's sort of living that kind of life too, but I know there are headliners everywhere they go, all over the world.
Right.
But I imagine there are a lot of people that come out to see them that they just go, wow, you wanted to come see us. Even
well, both of you are absolutely the two prime examples of that. I mean, I couldn't believe it meeting you, JD, in Kentucky, and that, as I said earlier, it's just totally surreal for me. And that hearing you talk, and on that, and when we met, you were telling me about all of these unbelievable players that you were playing with and learning from, and just for me, I mean, I know it's your life, but for me to feel like I'm sort of once removed from all of that, you know, to meet someone who's played with all those people is absolutely magical.
Yeah, well, it's an experience that I'll never forget. You know, had I not been playing music, I would have never got to do that. Meet all those people and that I idolized. You know, I looked up to those people, man. I loved every one of them.
Is there someone you idolize more than anyone in particular?
No, I kind of liked all of them. I mean, they were just, to me, I respected what they did, you know. And while we're talking here, I want to ask you something, if I may. Did you ever play at the Barbican Center in London?
I live very close, but I've never played, but I've been to many shows there.
We did. We were fortunate. The New South got to play that venue. And to me, that was one of the best venues I believe I've ever played. The sound was great. People were great to work with. I mean, it was really, I would have loved to have done a live album at the bar.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, not to mention that you were playing to an audience that was starved to hear you. Starved to hear somebody.
Absolutely.
It was a great audience.
They don't get to hear a band like yours and a player like you every day there. I mean, we take it for granted over here a little bit, you know?
Well, I think we all do that, you know, because we're just used to playing.
Yeah, but JD, you are, you know, you will never say anything like this, but you're an icon. You know, you're a giant, and it's
agreed.
For them to go over to London to play. They've been waiting. There are people over there that have been waiting all their lives to see you. It would just be like, you know, if you know, somebody getting to see Elvis or the Beatles, you know, somebody didn't think they would ever get to see him, and then all of a sudden they're going to be playing in town. You're going to fight for that ticket, you know, to get in there. And they were happy to see you. Yeah, dang right. It'd be a great place to do a live album.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great. Well, that reminds me of our adventure in 1975 to Japan. Remember how that was?
Yeah.
That was kind of scary.
It was. That was the only place anybody's tried to rip my shirt off.
Yeah.
You know, as I was running from the stage to the car. That was crazy.
Even at the car, they were trying to get in.
Yeah.
You remember?
This is Winston's everyday life, though.
Now they're in that capacity. That's what happened to them. I hope it does.
They have a Learjet parked behind the.
Now you can imagine how Elvis and the Beatles felt.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of a scary feeling to me. I don't like to be in crowds like that.
What year was that?
I like to play to them.
You weren't born yet, Winston. It was 1975.
Yeah. Oh, you're still.
Don't you love it, Crowe, when somebody comes up to you and says, my mother grew up listening to you play.
Oh, yeah. Or my dad grew up listening to you play.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
Short conversation.
So, I'm just lucky I'm still here anymore.
Boy, I'm happy you're still here. And
me too.
And you're still playing, I understand. Even though you say you're retired.
Yeah, but I'm just doing it I'm not doing any personal. It's more private. Like your Ricky's Boston studio.
Is it more fun? Is it more fun?
Yeah. And
less pressure?
Oh, well, no pressure. The only pressure is if you're going to record, get it right, but, the old deal. But
tape don't lie.
You got that right. It only comes out what you put through it, the microphone. But no, I tell you what happens, especially when you retire, you don't play as much naturally while you retire. But you lose that edge real quick when you're not playing. Of all the stuff that I had played, I still remember it. But getting it down to my hands is another thing. And you'll feel that too. When you get a certain age, it happens to everyone.
Yes, I find that I have to play a little while just to get my hands and brain talking to each other through this instrument before I want to go out in front of people.
That's right.
That's it. And people, I have been asked what if I'll ever retire, and I say, retire from what?
Well, yeah.
I'm doing what I love to do.
Well,
I'm sure you guys do too. I mean, isn't it wonderful that we can do this for a living?
Yeah, and I miss it.
Ridiculous.
I really
right now it's not so great, but
no.
Usually it has been.
Yeah, and but I'm really, as good as I love it, I still do, and I miss it. I miss the camaraderie of my picking buddies. Getting to see you guys and everybody, and I miss that really, probably as much as anything, and miss playing on stage. But I don't miss the other part of it. I don't miss the riding all night and
the part we got paid for.
The part we didn't get paid for. Yeah.
Yeah. That the getting A to B is what we get paid for, and the music is free.
That's right. The music is free. You get paid for getting to the gig and getting back home and paying for your transportation.
When Mumford Sons played in Nashville the last time, I went down and got up on stage, and their stage, they're sort of in the round. Everybody was around their stage. It was in the middle of the floor. And these guys were walking all over the place. I mean, they've got ears, and they're wireless. And because it would be a mess to try to clean up all those guitar cables with you guys, the way you walk around, Winston. You guys are all over the stage.
I'd probably trip and fall.
Two different sides of the stage, and Winston's going from everywhere. And Marcus is going from one side of the stage to the other to sing with an exact same setup on each side of the stage. And the crowds that they played to, the night I was there, they broke the record in the big hall down here, Bridgestone Arena. They broke the attendance record that night.
Really? Well, that's
Yeah,
great.
no, but that many people had never been in that place at one time, and
But
they didn't know it
the
at the
problem
time.
with playing in the round is that it's, you know, the cables thing actually, I wouldn't be so worried. I have tripped and fallen on stage, and it's embarrassing for a moment, but you get up and you'll be okay.
Oh, you get over it.
Yeah, you get over it quick enough. But what was a bit of a kind of steep learning curve is that normally when the crowd is on one side, you can turn your back after every song's finished and just have a little moment to yourself, a little respite, to recompose yourself. When you're playing in the round, you don't have any of that. So basically the show is twice as long because you're just on and you're performing every second until you're off again.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a challenge. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, JD,
Yes.
just rewind one moment. You're talking about you're losing the edge if you don't play, but were you getting the edge just from playing, or how much is it about playing with other people and the collaborative side of it? How much do you get off on other players?
And I've mentioned this before, I think. I don't enjoy playing unless it's with a band, I'll be honest with you. I don't like to sit and play by myself. The only time that I would do that, if I'm trying to learn a totally new song or I'm trying to write an instrumental. But otherwise, I do not play for myself. I don't sit at the house and play at all. I never did. I play with a band. And to me, that's what makes a good musician, is to have a good band. And you're playing in that concept. You've got the timing going. You've got the separation. You're hearing everything. You know, and to me, that's where it is. And I miss that. That's why I really don't get out and play unless it's in a band context.
Well, we're living in a COVID time right now. We're living in a pandemic, and it's almost impossible to play with other musicians. So I think we're all losing our edge right now until we can play in bands.
You know.
Yeah,
And I think
it's a different
play in a band.
It's not competitive.
A different feel. Well, you know yourself. No. In other words, when you and I, and Ricky and Tony and Bobby were together, we played off of each other. At least I did. I would watch every person on that stage, and I knew what you were going to do before you did it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a good, solid band. And you probably knew what I was going to do before I did it.
Crowe would scare us to death.
Yeah,
Crowe would scare us to death. I mean, there were times when in the middle of a song when JD was going to take a solo, Winston, and he would not play a lead into his solo. It was just bang. And he would, and it would just like people would be going, you know, it's like it was scary to everybody, but it was a powerful thing, and it was Crowe's secret. And I don't know if he got it from Earl Scruggs or anybody, but a banjo when you pow, you know, when you put a power into the first beat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not to mention the times he would sneak up behind me. And I'd be tuning, and he'd thump the head of his banjo, and I just would come unglued, you know, thinking I had just broken every string neck off of my guitar, you know. It was a scary sound.
But you know,
you need to try that to Marcus the next time.
That's the thing. Yeah. Well, but you know, you create not just playing music. You create a camaraderie with the person. You tell if he can take a joke, or if, you know, like me, I'd walk up behind Jerry and I'd talk to him while he was playing about something that didn't even pertain to music. And I'd try to break Tony up. I'd start singing another song. And that tells you if he's concentrating or not. I mean, he never wavered. Not once, nobody.
Well,
That
he wasn't
is a
going
clue.
to.
You got it together.
That's
And
a
that makes a
band.
good musician.
That's a good band.
That's a
When you
band,
have that
and
kind of
that's it.
rapport with each other.
I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss that.
Yeah.
So
What
I
do you
love
guys
bands
do
that are
that?
smiling on stage.
you know,
Win-
that don't
Winston, do
happen
you
a
guys
lot.
do that? Do you guys mess with each other on stage while you're doing shows?
Oh, definitely. Although I've taken it too far, and unfortunately,
Well,
I've
sometimes you
found a
can.
line and gone way past. But it's
Yeah.
but you've got to do that, because you've also you got to. It's kind of, you're kind of kids up there a little bit. You know, you start in a band when you're a teenager, whatever, and you revert to that mentality a little bit. And like you say, it's camaraderie. It's your buds, and
Yeah.
you tease each other, but it also makes it fun. And I always love bands that are smiling. You know, even on records, you can't see them, but you can hear if they're smiling sometimes. I always felt that way with Creedence, with Creedence Clearwater Revival. You can hear them smiling while they're playing, because you know they're having so much fun. That there's something about that I always loved in other bands.
Well, the
It comes out.
Creedence smiling was all John Fogerty smiling all the time, because he played everything on the record.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Oh, is that right? There you go.
He did a lot of smiling.
Jerry, let me ask you this now. I know you got the your band now, Earls of Leicester,
Right.
or Leicester. How do you? But anyway, that's kind of a neat deal. Anyway, when y'all spell that, but but I'm sure you had that kind of camaraderie in Earls of Leicester. I know you were serious about it, but you also relax and have fun with it.
Oh, you have to.
Right.
You have to.
You
That
have to.
music makes me smile. That music just makes me smile when I play it.
If everything's cooking, man, it's great. You might be
When I look-
tired, but it's a good tired feeling when you come off the stage knowing it worked, you know.
Yeah. And it's, you know, in these times, it's impossible for us to do that, band, because we do so much singing around one microphone
That's right.
that we can't do that right now.
No, you can't.
So we can't be the Earls of Leicester. And actually, I'll tell you something that I came up with that band name when I was leaving. I was on my way to Heathrow.
Okay.
And I passed a sign that said Leicester, but it was like, as many interviewers have said, what gave you the idea for the Earls of Leicester? And I went, wrong. It's Leicester. That's the whole gag. And then they go, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I was on my way to the airport when I passed a street called Leicester, and I just went, oh, that's it.
That's
you know,
it would work.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's where you got. I knew it was an English sounding word.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen that word before, but I didn't really remember where it was. But I knew that it was kind of an English type of word, you know. But it worked for Leicester, you know.
Yeah, you know, and over there, you see that name all the time. I mean,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's a common sight, that word, Leicester, and it's just pronounced different, as we call Worcester, Massachusetts, Worcester. You know, it's like,
that's it.
and it's another ripoff from England.
There you go.
But I don't know. It's a big old world, and you guys shrink it right down, because, you know, watching you two play the banjo is just a joyous thing. You know, what is it, do you think it is about the banjo that makes everybody, like Steve Martin said, how can you be sad when you play the banjo? You can't.
Yeah, but there again, you can also be serious when you do a slow song with a lot of harmony. Back up, then it gets serious. Now, but I guess you would call the banjo more or less a happy instrument. You know what I'm saying? Because you usually doing up-tempo numbers, mid-tempo numbers. But I guess it comes from listening to the guitar a lot, is the slow. I love playing slow backup.
That's where your guitar playing comes in. That's when
that,
all of that, all the 50s come in.
Yeah, that's it.
And he pours it out. He bends notes. He does all of these things. You and Sonny Osborne were the only banjo players that ever did that. Yeah. And you made that a part of your style. And if you don't play J.D. Crowe style banjo, if you can't do that, you know, just qualifies you.
And I love.
I don't think I've heard Winston be in that situation.
Well, the music they're playing doesn't relate to that slower. Well, I'm sure they could do it if they wanted to. But
one of the things
I think is a kick as music, man, is pushing that beat out there. That's where rock and roll shines. Mm-hmm. To me, is that beat. And
just even in a slow song where things slow down and you just want a beat, you know, just the strum of a banjo speaks 1,000 words, you know, and brings across to people, you know, what attitude you're playing with is what kind of music you're playing. I mean,
exactly. Yes.
We all do approach it in a different way, but you two guys are really good at this, and it's just so great to have the both of you in one place here. And
this is really different for me, especially. And I'm sure for all of us, you have to do it like this. But it's great. The technology allows you, you know, from around the world to hook up whatever and do this type of situation. You know, it's great.
Well, when can we do it IRL, which is kid talk for in real life?
As soon as we're allowed to leave our country.
Hey,
come to yours.
Listen, when are you coming back to the U.S.? What are you going to do?
Oh, that is an excellent question. Firstly, you'll be the first note. Secondly, I'll be there as soon as possible. But you guys got to sort your shit out, and then we'll come over. But I miss your country. I love your country. It's just the greatest country. And
you need to do Rough Arena again.
Rupp Arena's the big place in Lexington. Yeah. That's for sure.
That's it.
Would we be able to play together if we did that?
That's
a good question.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer now.
Up on that stage?
I mean, in a heartbeat, but will JD come join us on the stage is the big question.
I probably could. I don't know how it would sound, but
to comfort you, if you do come up, I'll knock your banjo head out so that all your strings are out of tune. You'll feel right at home.
It'll probably be that way anyway.
Guys.
By the way, let me ask you this, Winston. Are you using a pickup? I'm sure you are on your banjo.
Yeah. Combination. So pickup and a little. So two pickups actually, like a humbucker pickup, Challenger pickup, and then a little piezo thing on the bridge to get a bit of the like live tone.
You would probably have to, so your other guys could hear you on stage. Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially the drummer would need to hear you.
Oh yeah.
That's why it's hard.
We'll ask him how much banjo he's got in his mix the next time we ask him.
Probably blow your head off. That's why I've lost.
Very unenjoyable for everyone but me.
That's why I've lost. I mean, you've got to be careful. I have lost my hearing on the high end a lot. from
Really?
ear monitors.
From monitors.
Yep, and from monitors I have.
Mm.
Yeah. It's
Noted.
Do it without you realizing it.
Yeah.
Loud.
Got to have it loud though. Do you know what I mean?
I like it loud. I like.
Yeah, I like it loud.
Especially the bass. I want to hear the bass and the drum kick. You know, I want to hear that together.
He likes low end.
Driving it.
He plays a high end instrument, so he really loves low end.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you for doing this. Thanks for coming together such a distance, and it's been insightful for me.
I can't tell you what an honor this is for me. Just both of you and Jerry, your continued friendship, and JD, our new friendship, and it just, you know, you're not really real humans to me. I know we're sort of friends, but you're still kind of mythological people to me still. This is, and I don't really want to let go of that because it's magic, as I said earlier.
Hey, just like
I think we all have that. I mean, you guys, I have that same feeling when JD. It's just amazing to me that I ever shared the stage with either one of you. You got to play music with you. It's just a thrill. And I never get over it. It's never old. It's every time it's new, and I'm just so proud to have both of you as friends. It's
that goes
indescribable.
Double. That goes double for me, buddy. I love you guys.
We love you, JD. Love you, Win.
What a legend. Love you guys. What gentlemen. What gentlemen.